Welcome to another fun-filled Monday edition of Second City Sports. We're live and live in color right here on Sports Zone Chicago, along with Miss McKee McGee, which is she. I am Cindy Brownhead. That's me. You can follow yours truly on the Twitter and the IG at SidKid80. Once again, it's SidKid80. That's SIDKID80. That's SIDKID80.
You can follow my Keenan McGee on the Twitter and at Keenan McGee on the IG.
Make sure you download that Sports Zone Chicago app wherever you get your apps. You want to know why? Because we said so. That's why. And also, so you can catch up on our other live shows we have airing throughout the week. So if you happen to miss them, you can go back and listen and watch them at your own leisure. Make sure you download that Sports Zone Chicago app today. Speaking of Sports Zone Chicago, please find us on all social media platforms on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. Once again, please find Sports Zone Chicago on all social media platforms on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. Subscribe to our podcast at War Media Podcast. That's WARR Media, PODCASTS. We're available on all podcast platforms, including the iHeartRadio app. And speaking of War Media, please find us on all social media platforms on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube at WARR Media. Once again, that's at War Media, WARR Media on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. And thank you very much in advance for your support.
Like, share, subscribe, and tell your friends.
We are unapologetically fun, and we have very definite opinions. If you have any definite opinions during our 2-hour extravaganza we call our Sports Talk Radio Show, you can always hit us up in the comment section at Sports Zone Chicago's Facebook page or at Sports Zone Chicago on YouTube. Type in your questions or comments in the comments section. Lakina will get up on the screen for you. But if you decide to troll and or do something stupid, I'm giving Lakina full power to give you fools the Samantha Rivera boot.
Bye-bye.
Shove.
The shove.
Give him the shove. But before we begin, we must remind you that you can also catch Sports Zone Chicago, now available on Roku TV. That's right. So celebrate the squad and get with the program. Sports Zone Chicago is now available on Roku TV. If you already have a Roku TV, just tap on that Sports World and download that Sports Zone Chicago app. If you don't have a Roku TV, but you have some handheld devices laying around, iPhone, iPad, iTouch, your personal PC or your Chromebook like I'm using right now, just go to that Google Play Store and download that Roku TV app and access Sports Zone Chicago through that avenue. So no more excuses. Celebrate the squad and get with the program. Sports Zone Chicago is now available on Roku TV 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year, live and on demand.
Anytime and anywhere you want.
And you know we will provide.
All right, so we got a lot to talk about here. A lot of stuff happening on this weekend in sports. So of course we'll do what we usually do, this time of year. We go first to talk about our baseball teams. Kind of a mixed bag here for both our clubs. We'll start with the White Sox first. Unfortunately, lost a couple of chances to perhaps even take the series against the Marlins and perhaps even sweep the Marlins. Unfortunately, losing the rubber match of that series. Collapses by the bullpen, I guess, and some weirdness going on on the field. We'll get to that in a second. You're losing 2 out of 3 against the Marlins. A pretty solid Marlins squad, probably not like up at the level of their fellow NL East compadres, the Braves, but they're still pretty solid. They were able to win the first game on Friday, but they lose the last 2 after that. Sid, what happened?
Before we begin, the only great thing that happened over the weekend were these. For those of you listening back on our replay at War Media Podcast, the White Sox gave out their Sox Margarita shirts for the 5th year in a row. This is my second one for the 2nd year in a row. These were handed out Saturday. Lakina, you like the colors?
Yeah, I don't mind the colors.
Okay, because they're better than the ones they handed out last year. But with that being said, I was there on Saturday. The White Sox struggled to score as usual, but I was feeling pretty confident until they brought in Joe Kelly. And I didn't say it out loud, but I had a bad feeling about it. You saw what happened. I said to myself, where's Liam Hendricks? We'll get to that news in just a moment. But what Joe Kelly did and what Tim Anderson did, booting the ball at potential double play, he was supposed to throw out the runner at home, which did not happen. And the Sox wet the bed the first time. Then yesterday, after coming back and grabbing a 5-1 lead, like you said, the bullpen gave it up again. Kendall Graveman, with his first real bad outing of the season, you were supposed to take 2 out of sweep the series, I should say. And no less take 2 out of 3. Lakina, I'm not going to jump off the bandwagon, no, but I am concerned but I don't think still is as bad as people want to make it out to be. I know what you're going to say. Show me when they get to 500. I understand that. Show me when they build consistent positive habits from here on out. I understand that. But the bullpen has been the rock of the team over the last 3 or 4 weeks, and the Liam Hendricks return has basically boosted that bullpen, and rightfully so. And the starting pitching looks like it started to come around. Lucas Giolito deserved a better fate yesterday. Unfortunately, his teammates let him down. And then Saturday, it still should be an easy 1-0 win, but that didn't happen either. But with the tough road trip ahead for this White Sox team, they need to turn it around and turn it around fast. Now, one of my main concerns is Tim Anderson. I know he had the day off yesterday. I think me personally, part of that was punishment for what he did on Saturday, and plus he went 0 for 4 at the plate. But he's not getting it done at the top of the lineup right now. I would drop him to 6 or number 7 in that lineup and give a guy like Andrew Benintendi some chances because he's a professional hitter and he gets on base. And did you know he leads the team in stolen bases with 8? Go figure.
Well, and also to remember, I mean, you're paying him a lot of money, so I think you need to probably play him a little bit more. Now, this just shows you why I wasn't in on this thing. Or were the White Sox back? The bullpen, they've been very solid. They were solid before Hendricks got there. Well, we'll see. We'll talk about the Hendricks. I'll talk about that in a second. But look, we went back to the bad habits, that error by Anderson, that Saturday game, and then just the bullpen completely losing it. Especially in yesterday's game, but that's how the Marlins were able to come back and ended up winning it. But like I said before, the AL Central is pure comedy. We'll get to the rest of. We talk the rest of baseball, but it's comical. It's comical that that they're still in it, even though they had the Sox lost 10 in a row at one point early on the season. This is why I haven't bought the White Sox. I'm sorry. And I know people say, well, let's trade Tim Anderson. I know he's been in a lot of discussion for various people and whatnot, but look, it is what it is with Anderson. But look, you had your chances, perhaps maybe go 2 out of 3 and perhaps even sweep this Marlins series. Now you're going to go to Los Angeles and play a Dodgers team that are not going to be in a very good mood because they didn't have a good road trip, so they're going to be a little bit pissed. So have at it, Sox fans. But look, I know. Look, I mean, Andrew Vaughn's been one of the bright spots. Jake Burger's been a bright spot, especially. But at this point, I'm like, okay.
Shout out to our buddy Lamont Scott in the comments on the Facebook. Nice to have you back, young sir. He says, "Will the bad habits cost him this for the season before the All-Star break?" I'll say yes if they continue down this path because we talked about this last year, Lakina. It was the starting pitching that saved them while the offense was up and down. And with the bad defense, they got away with it 2 years ago when they won the division, out-slugging everybody. That's not happening so far this year. And also, too, I want to point out the Sevi Zavala play in the 9th inning with the catcher's interference play. That was just plain dumb. You were a strike away from getting out of there with a series win, and you decided to pull that. That just made no sense to me. That was inexcusable.
Yeah, I mean, look, again, this is sort of like, par for the course with the Sox squad. And that pretty much tells the story of what the Sox, have been all season long. But, I digress. But let's go to a good part of what happened with our baseball teams over the weekend. That is the Cubs. The Cubs win 2 out of 3 against the Giants. Lose it. I'm not going to talk about, that rubber match. I mean, 13-3. It wasn't a good showing by the Cubs. I want to talk about Kyle Hendricks. Kyle Hendricks was just a couple outs away from getting a no-hitter. Probably, the closest pitcher has gotten to a no-hitter this year. But, he showed some good stuff. We saw the same Kyle Hendricks we saw from a couple of years back. They had another solid show on Friday, had another solid showing as well. Look, I know Cubs fans are going to want to concentrate on that loss on, yesterday. But look. The Giants are one of the top teams in the National League West. They're still right there for the division. Look, you take the 2 out of 3. Look, you take it. And look, considering what happened the last couple of weeks, this is probably the best year I've seen the Cubs play. And you know what? I'll take it. I mean, look, Mitch Haniger, of course. Look, at least that wasn't like one of those, like what happened earlier this season. When Drew Smiley got and Gomes, collided earlier this year. At least in this case, Haniger just bum rushed that ball for a double, so that ended Hendricks no hitter. But look, you take 2 out of 3 if you're the Cubs. Look, you just got to keep it step by step. You're still only 6.5 back in the division. No one's going to run away from it. We'll talk about what happened the rest of the league in a second, this weekend. But you got to be feeling pretty good, though. I mean, look, I know some Cubs fans are still like, they're 8 and they're 9 games under 500, blah, blah, blah. But you saw a little bit of some signs. You saw Matt Murphy's had a couple of good hits. He had Chris Morel looked really good. Saya's starting to heat up a little bit. So, I think, look, the consistency's got to be there. And I think, look, you're still right there for the NL Central. So I wouldn't be too discouraged.
Yeah, one more thing about the no-hitter, Lakina. Remember, Kurt Schilling was a couple of outs away from a perfect game during the year the Diamondbacks won the World Series. Remember, Ben Davis had a swinging bunt, and Bob Burnley called it chicken shit.
Oh gosh, yep.
But I digress. But we talked about the formula of this Cubs team, Lakina. This is their identity all year. Great starting pitching, great defense, and timely hitting. And that's what you saw in the first 2 games of the series. You mentioned Christopher Morel. He had 3 RBI on Saturday, which helped the Cubs shut out the Giants 4-0. But the night before, last Friday, Nico Horner came up with 2 RBI. As Marcus Stroman, he didn't have his greatest outing, but he wasn't bad either. He kept the Cubs in the ball game, which the Cubs squeezed out a 3-2 win in that series opener last Friday night. I don't want to talk about yesterday's game either because it was bad for everyone, even though they did have a couple of chances to get back in the game, but they just couldn't take advantage. But the identity of this Cubs team was the first 2 games of that Giants series. Now, as we say about the White Sox, can they be consistent? And that's a big question going forward. And they have two of the next 3 or 4 series are against Pittsburgh, 1 each at home and on the road. So they have a chance to beef up their record right there, even though Pittsburgh's still barely above 500. But people talk about Marcus Stroman. Will he be back with the Cubs next year? Him and his agents and the Cubs front office are not seeing eye to eye right now. But we all know that strange things happen, things can change. But as of right now, Stroman is the lone representative for the Chicago Cubs team at the All-Star game next month in Seattle. And as far as the offense is concerned, call me crazy, Lakina. You brought his name up for the last couple of shows. Cody Bellinger, hopefully he'll be back and be back soon because even though this Cubs offense is still okay, it's much better with Cody Bellinger in that lineup.
Yeah,
and you definitely need his defense in center field for sure.
Yeah, and he's definitely being missed on that, especially on that front as well. And I think, look, I know there are some, Cubs fans like, hey, let's trade Stroman, let's see if we get something for him. But look, I'm not gonna trade your best player just because, especially since you're still right within striking distance of your division. So, I'm not gonna be one of those people that say, oh, let's trade him against something. Look, okay. And there's no guarantee that they're gonna, he's gonna come back here. I know he said he loves it here and the team loves him, but let's not just trade him because there's no guarantee he'll be back. So I just think that let's kind of like play it as it goes. You got a little bit of time because remember the trade deadline is not till August 10th, so you got a little bit of time before. You got to actually figure out what you're going to do. But yeah, I'm not going to trade Stroman just because he's been easily your best player on that Cubs squad consistently. And I'm not going to like trade him like just to get something. I'm not going to do that.
And also to the small whispers talking about David Ross, their manager being fired. I think we addressed this on Friday. Hopefully this will be the last time we'll say it on this show. Him being fired is not going to solve the team's issues. I think he's going to he has the horses that he needs to right now to be competitive. But firing him is not going to do anything. Are you going to hire Joe Girardi in or Jim DeShays from the TV booth? No, that's not going to happen. Are you going to hire Willie Harris to run this team? No. So firing David Ross is not going to do anything. So you just have to write it out. Hopefully your key players will get healthy, and you need some guys, especially on the offensive end, to start picking it up.
And let's hopefully that happens. So we're going to take a really quick break. Boy, that first segment goes by quick. But yeah, we're going to take a really quick break. We're going to talk about the rest of baseball. The Tigers are in free fall. Some other things that are happening as well. And a couple of strange things that happened over the weekend. And someone would say the lackluster Red Sox-Yankees series. Really? It was lackluster? Get out of here. So we're talking about some MLB coming up next. Lakina McGee, Cindy Brown, Second C Sports, and Sports Cell Chicago. More Diamond Talk coming up right after this.
This year, my mom got me the perfect bag for back to school.
These colorful binders help me stay organized.
These headphones are just what I need for studying.
This
These new sneakers are just what I need for the new year.
This jacket is a real must-have.
My parents got me the skateboard I wanted. It's pretty cool.
These scissors really come in handy in art class.
These colored pencils, too.
These new socks, they can be a real lifesaver.
I finally got my own phone to stay in touch with my mom.
Trisha's having a sleepover tonight. Can I go?
I wonder about Lucy's friends. What should I say? I know you're only 10, but one of these days a friend will offer you a drink. And alcohol at your age can lead to so many things. None of them good.
So can I go to the sleepover?
Lucy, I want you to promise me
I
something.
finished my homework.
Bigger promise. If there's any drinking, I want you to say, "No thanks, not my thing."
Mom.
I promise you. Your real friends won't care. Deal?
Sure.
Really?
I promise, Mom.
They really do hear you.
Did you pack your toothbrush?
For tips on how to start the talk, visit underagedrinking.samhsa.gov. A public service message from the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration.
Hey, this is Dr. J, and I listen to Sean and Maya in the morning.
Sorry. Welcome back to Second City Sports, the Monday edition. We're live and live in color right here on Sports Zone Chicago. Sid Lakina hanging out here with you. You can follow yours surely on the Twitter and the IG at SidKid80. Once again, at SidKid80, that's SIDKID80, SIDKID80.
You find me at Keenan McGee on the Twitter and at Keenan's going to be on the IG.
We have less than 85 minutes left or so left in this left of this program. We call it an extravaganza sports talk radio show. If you have any questions or comments for us, you can always hit us up in the comments section on Sports Zone Chicago's Facebook page or Sports Zone Chicago YouTube. Type in those questions or comments in the comments section. Lakina will get the up on the screen for you. All right, Lakina, let's continue our baseball talk. What else that was in the happenings around the world of Major League Baseball? I'll start. You mentioned the Red Sox and Yankees series. We really didn't have any marathons of games, Lakina. Yay! So the pitch clock is actually working with those two teams get together. I know there was some talk nationally that this rivalry doesn't mean as much anymore. It doesn't in a sense, but these two teams are always going to be rivals. But the Boston Red Sox took 2 out of 3 from the Yankees in Yankee Stadium this weekend. No, the Yankees do not have Carlos Rodon. No, the Yankees do not have Aaron Judge. But I was impressed by the Red Sox this weekend. It started with their starting pitching. They beat Garrett Cole on Friday. They lost a tough one on Saturday night in front of a national audience. But on Sunday Night Baseball last night, Enrique Hernandez came through with the game-winning RBI in the top of the 10th as the Red Sox took the game in a series by the score of 3-2 in 10 innings.
Yeah, it's basically the Red Sox kind of remind me of the White Sox. I mean, when they're good, they're really good, but when they're bad, they're not very good. And you
Hmm.
saw that in that Saturday game when they lost a tough one there. Now they did win 2 out of 3, but like you said, I mean, it's kind of hard to measure that. Judge is still out with that toe injury. Rodon's out. I mean, he might be back in a week or two. We don't know about that, but
Hmm.
look, I think you take it, you're the Red Sox, you're 14 back. I mean, but you're still like within the distance in the wild card spot. I know it's a little early to be talking about that, but look, that was a nice showing by the Red Sox, this weekend. And look, it's still look. I'm sure the fans of the Red Sox, Yankees, they still care about, even though the rest of us are kind of like whatever at this point with that series.
Yeah.
So it is what it is. But even still, I mean, you'll take it though if you're a Red Sox fan. Now, as far as going to nationally side in the West, the Diamondbacks they swept the Tigers, and look, I don't know what to think. I know look, no one had the Diamondbacks, I should say, up
Mhm.
3.5 on the Dodgers. No one had that. I mean, look, they've got some solid guys on that team. You got Christian Walker among others, and it's just look, it's hard for me to say whether or not this team is for real or not. I know Lourdes Gurriel Jr. I mean, he had been one of those guys. Another guy has been really solid for them. There's
Mhm.
also it's a lot kind of like young guys, guys in the farm system. But I know Corbin Carroll has been very solid. He had a grand slam in that Friday game in that series where they pounded the Tigers. But I mean, can they sustain it? That's a whole nother question. But look, I'm liking what I've seen so far. But I don't know. I don't know. Like I said, you take it, but if you're a Diamondbacks, if they're already Diamondbacks fan, I'm sure they are in the house. But I just don't. I'm not kind of like not there as saying that they're a legit contender. I'm not.
Yeah, I'm with you. I got to see a little bit more of them so far. They're doing, like you said, they're doing good. They're getting timely hitting and some very good starting pitch. I know their manager got his contract extended a couple of weeks ago. So right now they're taking advantage of San Diego's mishaps. We'll get to them in just a minute. But the Dodgers, they had a little mishap too on the East Coast. We'll get to that also. But the Diamondbacks has stayed even kill this year. So some say a little bit above even kill with their record, but they're taking advantage of it right now. We'll see how long this continues. If they're around the top at the All-Star break, maybe you have to take them seriously. I'm not knocking them either. They're doing what most people, a few people expected them to do. So, but it's still going to be a tough NL West whenever San Diego gets their act together.
Yeah, we'll see what happens with that. Now the Reds have been pretty solid lately too, going into the NL Central. Winning 2 out of 3 against the Cardinals. You just really just don't know what you're going to see from the Cardinals at this point. But Eli De La Cruz hits another home run, and
I love watching him play. Woo.
yeah, he's been very exciting now. I'm wondering though that once guys start figuring him out, once he starts
Mhm.
getting tape, post start getting tape on him, he might suffer from a little bit of a little bit of a slump, but we'll see what happens with that. But I kind of feel like at this point, I mean, like the Reds, I'm kind of like take it or leave it with them as well. Yeah, Dela Cruz has been, he's the youngest Red to reach 4 times, in that Friday game, but I'm kind of at the point where, like, again, same thing with the Reds and same with the Diamondbacks. I need to see more. Like I said, I'm sure if teams will figure De La Cruz out, but you like what you
Mhm.
see so far. He's been a very exciting player to watch.
And he's one of those young players that brings excitement to the game. You could tell that he brings excitement to his teammates as well. Cincinnati, what are they really known for these last few years, outside of Hunter Green, who had a decent game yesterday on the mound for Cincinnati.
Mhm.
Outside of him, Cincinnati is not known for much because they've been struggling and trying to rebuild for the last few years. So Ellie De La Cruz has really brought excitement to the franchise and to his teammates and to that fan base as well. As we said on our last show last Friday, Lakina, am I ready to take them seriously as far as a contender for a playoff spot? No, because they still have some pieces they need to bring up to see if they'll mesh with this group. But I'll say this, just like the Miami Marlins have done, especially to the White Sox this past weekend, they're going to cause some problems for some folks. So I just like we said about the Miami Marlins with their series against the White Sox last week, do not take the Cincinnati Reds lightly. I think the Cubs found that out the hard way last time they played them. I'm just saying.
Yeah, baby. Like I said, once once people, look, like I said, give me until like the end of June, early July, then maybe I'll take them seriously. But right now, I'm just like, oh, okay, you're just going through a little bit of a spurt right now. Same thing here with the Oakland Athletics. I mean, they've won 5 in a row. They win 2 out of 3 against Pittsburgh, and now they swept the Brewers, so that should help the Cubs fans out a little bit. 194 win average. The A's were right before that 5-game winning streak. That's the most consecutive wins by a team to have an under 200 winning percentage entering that streak. You got to go all the way back to the old Louisville Colonials in 1895, I should say. So yeah, that's a long time ago. But yeah, I mean, I think they needed this little bit of a spurt. I mean, Kevin Smith's been very solid right now. He actually breaks the Thor's hammer. I guess that's like that little celebration. I guess he broke the hammer when he hit that home run yesterday to the go-ahead home run that ended up giving them the sweep in Milwaukee, by the way. But yeah, I mean, look, I'm not going to say that they're going to be back into contention for the AL West AL wild card spot, but consider where they've been. I mean, this is actually like winning the World Series for them.
Yeah, exactly. You have issues going on outside the clubhouse. With management and looking to purchase land potentially to build a new stadium to move the team in Las Vegas, and a whole lot of stuff going on. We won't get into that part of it, but as far as on the field is concerned, looks like the players are having fun. No one expects Oakland to be competitive, but those players are just playing carefree, having fun, learning the game at a major league level on the job.
Yeah, and they have to play, they play the Sox, this weekend. So
no, actually, in a couple weeks.
A couple weeks. So yeah, we'll see where they're at by then. But yeah, I mean that's sort of like a nice showing there. Now on the flip side, though, for the Dodgers, lose 2 out of 3 to the Phillies, and like I said, for all the Sox fans, I mean you're going to be getting them in a very bad mood tomorrow. Just saying. So. Didn't have a great road trip. The Dodgers did. I mean, losing 2 out of 3 to the Phillies and losing 2 out of 3 to the Reds, and also 2 out of 3 against the Yankees. So not a good stretch there for them. It could, like I said, it could be you got guys in and out of the lineup, and guys through the various reasons. So that's not helping, and it hasn't been consistent. So I think that's been part of the problem. Hopefully, maybe they'll figure it out. Freddie Freeman's been one of the few bright spots during that stretch, but. Excuse me, but yeah, I mean, I'm not worried about the Dodgers. I know Dodgers fans are very miffed as well, so I don't know.
Yeah, on the flip side for Philadelphia, their big stars came to shine. Bryce Harper had a key RBI single yesterday. Nick Castellanos had a big home run yesterday. Kyle Schwarber had a big series, and also Trey Turner, I think one-time former Dodger. He had 3 hits yesterday as Philadelphia took 2 out of 3. So I was concerned about Philadelphia in the beginning of the season because, for Bryce Harper missed out at least the first month and a half of the year because of the Tommy John surgery he suffered from last year's playoff run. But offensively, it looks like Philadelphia is starting to get their game back. And like you said, playing that Cracker Jack box at Citizens Bank Ballpark, they better put up some big numbers. And outside of Saturday's game, they did that this weekend. So it looks like Philadelphia's still trying to trend back to the 500 mark. I believe they 1 game under now after this series win this weekend. So we talk about the Braves. We'll talk about the Mets next, but don't overlook the Philadelphia Phillies. They're reminding people, say, hey, we were in the World Series last year. We're good for a reason. Now we're coming back, and don't ignore us.
Yeah, it's good. Yeah, we'll see if they can get back to that stride that we saw that led them to getting into the World Series last year. But yeah, they're starting to kind of get it going. So we'll see what happens with that. Now, speaking of the Mets, they lose 2 out of 3 to the Pirates. A special moment for Andrew McCutcheon, who went back to the Pirates. Of course, he was with other teams, but he started his career with the Pirates. Got his 2000 hit yesterday. So congrats to him. And also but yeah, I mean on that Saturday game, I'm going to talk about that for a second. The Mets did snap that 7-game losing streak, on Saturday. They made the playoffs twice when having a 7+ game losing streak in a season. So both in 99 and in 2015. So this could actually help the Mets, dare I say, but we're a long way away from that. But you saw a little bit of that on Saturday, but then they go back to the bad habits, losing the tough pitchers duel. But I think if you're the Mets, you gotta wonder what can be done. I know people want Buck Showalter, get the axe, and I'm just like, okay, wait till the end of the month before you start talking about you want the guy's head.
Yeah, it's about their big money guys not coming through. I know every team has injuries. The Mets are one of them now with their
Right.
big slugger Pete Alonso on the shelf for a while, and so the Mets had to get creative, and they're going to have other stars like Francisco Lindor step up. Justin Verlander, who you paid all that big money for, I know he's been off the injury list for a while, but he's going to have to step up. So the veterans who are available to play on this team, they're going to have to step up and lead some of these young guys, and you're just going to have some performances, out of body performances, quote unquote, out of some guys that you didn't expect to get back to 500. And we talk about the Atlanta Braves not going away. We're talking about the Philadelphia Phillies making a charge back to 500. They're right there right now. So, and also don't forget about the Miami Marlins. They're better than what people expect. So the time is starting to run out for the New York Mets. I'm with you, Lakeem. It's not time to panic yet. Should you be concerned? Absolutely. But for the Mets, time very soon is not going to be on your side.
Yeah, they need to figure it out. They need to figure it out quick because you are starting to look. You're 40, you're 66 games in now. You're about like a third through the season, so you need to they need to kind of figure this out and to see like what do they got to do. I know they've had injuries. I know Diaz is still out, but that you can't be your excuse. You've got like big guys. You've got Verlander. It's just like I don't know what else can say. I know Scherzer's been kind of in and out, and he's been had his struggles too. But it's just like I don't know what to say. But you paid money to all these big name guys, and they're not producing. So that's been a big problem for the Mets, and so we'll see if they can figure it out. Now, the Padres. Well, I mean, look, they beat the Rockies, 2 out of 3, which I know that's not really saying much, but this is the Rockies. But even still, I think they really needed this. I wish they could have gotten the sweep. I mean, they just missed getting the sweep, but but you wonder though. You hope can they figure it out. I know that Machado's been up and down. I know Tatis Jr. is just now coming back, finding his groove again. I mean, at this point, I just don't know what can you do with the Padres. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I'm kind of like at a loss for words with them. I know that they play Cleveland. They host Cleveland coming up starting tomorrow. So what do you think?
This team just needs one good hot streak, and they're back in the thick of the NL West race. We talk about Arizona already. The Dodgers they've been struggling for the last week and a half or so. If you San Diego, you just need one good winning streak, like take it 10 out of 12, 13 out of 16, somewhere along those lines, and they'll be right back in this NL West race. As you mentioned, you have some of the big guys there: Juan Soto, Manny Machado, and Jake Cronenworth, who had a big 2-run home run yesterday. But you can't keep wasting these pitching performances. Blake Snell for the Padres had 12 strikeouts yesterday, but he ended up blowing the game in the ninth inning. I know they had a rain delay in there in between, but those games you have to win because those pitching performances from your starters are really hard to come by. I know they still have Yu Darvish, who's still pitching well this year, but you just can't keep wasting performances like that and have your offense disappear for moments at a time.
Yeah, that's not the one. Yeah, that's the last thing you want, especially you're in a very competitive division like the NL West. I mean, you got the Dodgers, now you got the Diamondbacks to worry about, and the Giants. So, hopefully the Padres can do sort of the same. They're kind of in the same boat as the Mets. I mean, they gotta get together if they want to. Of course, you still got the wild cards, but even then, you're in a log jam there with other teams in the other divisions. So that could be another issue coming up for them. But we'll see if they can figure it out now. My Seattle Mariners, they had a tough weekend, losing 2 out of 3 to the Angels. But, Zach Neto, who's been, one of the top young guys from that squad. I don't think, Ohtani should be getting a lot of love, as he should, and so has Trout. But it was been Neto, I think how you say his name. He had his first career multi-home run game on Saturday. He's the youngest shortstop in Angels history to have a multi-home run game since go all the way back to Jim Fregosi, all the way back in 1964. That's how long it's been. But yeah, I know, right? But yeah, but on
of course,
the
we all remember him managing in the '90s for Philadelphia.
Yeah. You forget how he was actually a pretty decent shortstop back in the day. But look, also Julio Rodriguez did get his 40th career home run, his 193rd career game. That's only A-Rod did it faster with 187. So congrats to him in that Saturday, which they did actually win that game. But Nito's been the guy that started that comeback, and they were able to win that series. How about the Angels? But yeah, I mean, hopefully that the Mariners can figure it out. I mean, they've been one of the most disappointing teams this year. We talked about that a couple of weeks back. But yeah, I mean, I'm sure they can figure it out. But they're five. I mean, they're 10 back on the Rangers. But I'm hoping they can kind of try to get into one of those wild card spots.
Yeah, and Brian, think of it in the ALS race on the outside looking in. But you mentioned the AL wildcard race is going to be tough. Of course, you have Houston's in there in their own division. In Texas, we'll get to them in just a minute. But Seattle, many people thought that last year was kind of smoke and mirrors, even though it was a great story, them making the playoffs for the first time in about 21 years. But you still have some of the young guys there like Ty France and Julio Rodriguez, my guy, who was rewarded with a big contract in the offseason. But I have some problems with their starting pitches. It just hasn't been up to par like it was a year ago.
Yeah, that was a problem for them last year. That's why they weren't able to get out of that, that wild card round. But yeah, I'm hoping they can figure it out. I mean, I'm hoping, but like you said, I mean, if they don't figure it out soon, it could get away from them pretty quick. I'm talking about this also on the wild card side. They're I think they're they're like 4 teams, like 3 teams are ahead of them right now. So it's gonna be interesting to see what because you got to deal with the AL East, you got to deal with Baltimore. We'll get to Baltimore in a second, but yeah, I mean, they got to figure it out. They got to figure it out like in essence, really quick. Now, Baltimore, I know they swept the Royals. Okay, I mean, it's not a big deal. But Gunnar Henderson has been one of those guys. We've talked about him and some of the other guys on that squad for the last couple of weeks, and Anthony Santander, and among some of the other guys that are on that squad for the Orioles. If you haven't heard too much about them, but they've been kind of right there. If it wasn't for the Rays and their hot streak, I mean, they could probably be leading the AL East right now. But their pitch has been pretty good too. I know that was a problem last year. They were right there to think of it for the wild card spots. There was a pitch that kind of killed them in the end, but I'm really liking what they're doing so far, and I think this is a great young squad to watch.
Yeah, they're one of the few teams in Major League Baseball are doing what they're supposed to do, beat up on bad teams, right? Something that both our Chicago baseball teams can learn about, the lesson they can learn, by the way. But you're talking about Gunnar Henderson. You're talking about Ryan O'Hearn, who had a big home run in yesterday's series finale win over Baltimore. Like I said, the young pitchers starting to step up right now. Kyle Gibson and Mr. Wells. And so I really like them because of the offense. We were talking about them last year. Like Keenan said, group was starting to. Some people would say overachieve, but they're starting to come together as a group. This year, they look for real. Like you said, it wasn't for a Tampa Bay's hot start. They will be leading this AL East, but Baltimore's no joke, folks, and they're coming. They're here, and let's see. I know this is still a month and a half away, but we'll see what they can do at the trade deadline. I really like that close as well, Felix Bautista. I love him. Yeah, I really like him. As we said before, they have one of the best. They quietly have one of the best bullpens in Major League Baseball. So I wouldn't sleep on Baltimore. Check out a few of their games. They really are fun to watch.
Batista is one of my favorites. I love his energy, his excitement. So yeah, he's been one of the kind of like like that guy that kind of brings that energy. So I'm dying to see what's going to happen with Baltimore, especially once they get closer and closer, because they're going to be playing a lot of their guys in their division. So we'll see if they can keep up with Tampa, including Tampa too. They play against Tampa in a couple of weeks, so we'll just see what happens with that. Now, Toronto, I should say, saying in that AL East. I mean, they lose 2 out of 3 to Minnesota. Sorry, Sid. But they get say themselves getting swept. I mean, Kevin Biggio had that home run, overcoming a 5-run deficit. The Blue Jays did to beat the Twins, avoid the sweep. And like I said, it's been the pitching that's been really, been their issue too. I know it really has been the hitting. I know Vladdy Jr. has been a little bit of a, kind of been up and down, but Bo Bichette's been actually pretty solid too. But it's actually been their pitching that's really been the problem for them. And again, it's becoming sort of like a habit, as well. Even though they're 7 games above 500, they're still right there in the wild card spot. They're 10.5 back, thanks to the Rays and their hot start. So, but I think they can figure it out. I think this team's way too good. There's too much talent on that squad for them to not to.
I agree, especially with their starting pitching. Of course, we talked about it in our last episode. Alex Manoah, there's a star left-hander. He's really struggled this year. He's down there, rookie ball, to figure some things out, having a great year last year. Of course, they still have Jose Barrios over there. So So he needs to lead that starting staff, get them back on track. Their bullpen is actually not that bad either, even though they've been kind of having an up and down stretch the last couple of weeks. Like you said, this team is led by the offense, and all hands on deck for them to keep up. And like we said last year, they finally broke through and made it to the playoffs, even though they lost to Seattle in the wild card round. It's going to be the offense that is going to carry them through. It all starts with Vlad Jr. You mentioned both. Pichetto's having a good year, and Cavan Biggio, who had that big home run yesterday. It's going to be led by those young guys.
Yeah, I think they're going to be a kid that want to get back into the AL East. So we'll see what happens. It's going to be very interesting there. Now, even though Detroit, they got swept. They got swept by the D-backs, but one of the few bright spots is that Miguel Cabrera got his, who's going to be his last season. Of course, you already made that official, but he did get. He gets 3,111 career hits. That broke a tie with Dave Whitfield for 22nd in MLB history. A-Rod is next. He has 3,115. So we'll see. Assuming that he does, I'm sure he will pass that at some point. Maybe even this week. Who knows? But yeah, probably one of the few bright spots in that slide from Detroit that they've had. But just want to give a little shout out there.
Yeah, did you see him scoring from first base yesterday early in the game? Yeah, him and his teammates had some fun with him. I said to myself, this is the first time I've seen him quote unquote run fast in about 6 years.
yeah, I haven't seen him run like that fast. I'm sure he needed oxygen afterwards too.
And a couple of ice packs too.
Yeah, I will say it was a little bit warm there in Detroit yesterday, but yeah, I mean, that was hilarious. But yeah, nice little showing by him. Actually, the second season Sports on Chicago. We're gonna be the Kingdom McGee City Brown as we're wrapping up our MLB talk. Anything else that caught your attention this week before we talk about this week's games?
Atlanta took 2 out of 3 from the Washington Nationals. So, of course, Washington won the series finale yesterday. And you mentioned the Tampa Bay Rays. They take 2 out of 3 from the Texas Rangers. There was clutch hitting for the Rays. They got them the series at home.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, yeah, basically, kind of like same as usual for the last all this season long. So it's been a really solid show for the Rays. We'll see if they can keep it up. Now, talking about this week's series, Atlanta and Detroit, as they start their series, Colorado and Boston. Boston, coming off that winning 2 out of 3 against the Yankees. San Francisco and St. Louis. So that should be a fun series, interesting series.
Watch out for Jordan Walker, the young prospect for the St. Louis Cardinals.
Yes, the Angels and Texas in the AL West. That should be a start of a fun series. Cincinnati, Kansas City, Miami and Seattle as they start their series. The battle of the 2 young up-and-comers. Philadelphia and Arizona. That should be an interesting one. And Tampa Bay and Oakland. These are all series that will be starting up. Well, at least some of them.
Okay, and the rest of the series that will be starting tomorrow, Tuesday, of course, the White Sox and the Dodgers. Remember, the White Sox-Dodgers Wednesday game will be exclusively on ESPN. That's the Wednesday game of the Dodgers White Sox. They'll be exclusively on ESPN Wednesday night at 9 p.m. Central Standard Time. The rest of the series that are starting tomorrow, you have Toronto at Baltimore. Of course, you have the Subway Series, the 2023 edition. I think it's a 2-game series. It's the Yankees at the Mets in Queens at Citi Field. You have the Battle of the Midwest, Milwaukee and Minnesota. Go Brewers. And, of course, you have Pittsburgh coming to Chicago to take on the Cubs in the friendly confines. Cincinnati at Kansas City. Washington at Houston. And you mentioned earlier Cleveland at San Diego. Those are the series that are starting tomorrow.
And first game of that Subway Series will be part of the Tuesday game of the week on TBS at 6:10 tomorrow, Tuesday. So, for all you New York fans of the Subway Series, that should be a fun one because both these teams have not been very good this. Well, they're kind of been mediocre at best this year. So, and we just see who gets the edge in that series.
Yeah, remember, there's still no Aaron Judge for the Yankees.
Yep. So definitely a big hole missing there. So that's your MLB schedule for this week. And we'll take a really quick break. Hour number 1 in the books. Hour number 2 coming up. We got a lot to talk about. So much. You got, of course, the Nuggets and the Knights will try to end their respective series and clinch their championships tonight. Can the Heat or the Panthers, can either Florida team try to extend it? And of course, a lot of strange things happening outside the big sports. So we'll get to all that coming up next. Lakita McGee, Sydney Brown, Second City Sports on Sports Zone Chicago. We'll talk championships or potential clinching championships coming up right after this.
No, I don't know though. I'm scared. I mean, you're so
Do you know that you're in my lane? No, not at all. Are you not paying attention? Are you texting? I was just checking in with my mom. I was telling her that I thought we'd be home by 6. It's okay. There's enough time. Just pay attention. I'm not even halfway through my text. There's no way. I'm not even going to look up. My babies are in the car. You have to pay attention. It's just supposed to be a quick text. I'm so sorry.
Hi, I'm Tom Brady, the director of DODEA. September is National Suicide Prevention and Awareness Month. The simple act of reaching out and caring for those in our communities is something we all can do. Just being there for someone you care about can be a tremendous first step in getting them access to confidential resources and support that they need. It only takes one person and one small act and 1 minute to make a difference. Let's make a difference.
Many will hear the calling. Few will earn the title. United States Marine. The few, the proud, the Marines.
Welcome back to hour number 2 of Second City Sports. We're live in living color for the Monday edition right here in Sports Zone Chicago, along with Miss Lakina McGee, which is she. I am Sydney Brown. Hey, that's me. You can follow yours truly on the Twitter and the IG at SidKid80. Once again, at SidKid80, that's SIDKID80, and that's SIDKID80.
You can follow me at Keenan McGee on the Twitter and at Keenan's going again, the IG.
Make sure you download that Sports Zone Chicago app wherever you get your apps. And we have less than 60 minutes left of this extravaganza. We call it Sports Talk Radio Show. If you want to hit us up in the comment section, you can do so by going to Sports Zone Chicago's Facebook page or Sports Zone Chicago on YouTube. Typing in questions or comments in the comment section. Lakina will get up on the screen for you.
All right, so we're going to do a little bit of championship previews here for potential game clinchers. We'll start with game 5, between the Heat and the Nuggets. Nuggets hoping to clinch tonight. It looks like Tyler Hero might be back. I mean, apparently he's now been upgraded to questionable, whatever that means. You can take that as you will. But now, I think for me, the key here, I think in this series, in this game, is that the Heat has to set the tempo. They have to set the tone early. They got to get Jimmy Butler, Bam. They got to get Gabe Vincent. Duncan Robinson has to shoot hot as well. Matt Struss had another bad game in game 4. He needs to get it going. or else this is going to be a short. We're going to be doing some celebrating going on in Denver. So I'm thinking that's the key. That's the key. And look, we've said it multiple times. I feel like I'm repeating myself, but look, we know Jokic is going to get his shots. Murray's going to get his shots. Everyone else around is going to be the problem. And if you're the Heat, you need to shoot the Nuggets. I know it's going to be hard to do, but you got to do it.
And also, too, you mentioned Miami. Their supporting castmates going to step up to help Jimmy Butler as well. It's not just Jimmy Butler or Bam Adebayo. Like you mentioned, it's Duncan Robinson. He tried his best on Friday in Game 4. It just didn't work out consistently. You might see a once-in-a-lifetime performance out of Kevin Love. We'll see what happens to there. Like I said, Gabe Vincent and Caleb Martin, those young guys will have to step up and have big contributions as well tonight. On the flip side for Denver, you saw what they did in Game 4 on Friday night. Aaron Gordon led the team with 27 points. Remember, Lakina, outside of Game 1, I said, where has he been in this series? Well, he showed up on Friday night and was shooting at 11 to 15 clip, including 3 or 4 from downtown. So Mr. Gordon stepped up and had a big game too. Remember Christian Brown? I know he only had 1 point on Friday, but he still made a big impact. Bruce Brown all of a sudden comes off the bench and has 21 points, including 3 or 5 shooting from downtown. He carried the Nuggets as far as the bench play is concerned. And, of course, Jamal Murray struggled with 15 points, but his impact on the floor was still huge, especially at the end of Game 4 on Friday. And Kentavious Caldwell-Pope had 7 points. Michael Porter Jr., I still believe that he needs to step it up big tonight, but he had 11 points on Friday because outside of Game 1, he's really had a bad series, in my opinion.
Yeah, it really has. And I think he definitely needs to step it up tonight. And look, like I said before, I mean, the rebounding. I think you gotta do more. They gotta be more aggressive in the rebound. I know Bam's gotta be more aggressive. Vince has gotta be more aggressive. And I think I think the key for Miami is to set the tone. Set the tone and see maybe the nerves get to Denver a little bit. Having to clinch at home, especially would be the first time ever for that franchise. You wonder, will that play a little bit of a part? Miami has nothing to lose at this point. The only thing you can do is take it one game at a time. Try to win game 5. You can't concentrate on Game 7. You got to win Game 5 first in order to kind of even force it to get to a Game 7. So the one step is to get that Game 5. And look, there's a reason why it's only happened once. If somebody's coming back from 3-1 down in the NBA Finals, LeBron did it, and the Cavs did it a few years back against the Warriors. So it can't be done. But there's a reason why that's been the only time that's happened. So. We talked about it with the guys on VON on Friday night, and like I said, I think that's going to be really going to be the key. I think that Miami's got to set the tone early. There's no if, ands, or buts about it.
You mentioned Miami circle shooting on Friday. They were only 8 of 25 from 3-point range for total of 30. A glorious. I'm using air quotes here. A glorious 32%. But also, too, they turned the ball over once too many times. They doubled up Denver's totals at a 15-8 advantage. So Miami had 15 turnovers. Eric Spoelstra coach teams. Usually they take care of the basketball. They didn't do that on Friday, especially late in that fourth quarter when Denver started to pull away and take control of that game. So Miami definitely has to take care of basketball. Like you say, dominate the boards, especially on the offensive end. I know that there were a +3 as far as offensive rebounds on Friday, but I think Miami needs to do much more to get extra possessions, keep that ball alive.
And try to force fouls, too. I know that the foul discrepancy has been a big issue this series. So I think if you could try to be a little more aggressive and try to force the fouling, I think maybe they can have a shot perhaps, maybe making it interesting, if not try to win. So, again, we'll have to wait and see. But, yeah, that's really going to be the key tonight, I think, for the Heat. If not, Denver's going to be celebrating at home tonight.
Yeah, like you said, Miami has to be more aggressive. They did get to the free throw line 20 times on Friday, making 17 of those free shots. But they had to step it up a little bit more. And that means not settling for jump shots, taking what the defense gives you, and forcing the action. Like you said, setting the tone. If they could do that on the road with no pressure on them, even though they're down 3-1, they should be right there at the end to win the ball game.
Well, like I said, I think the pressure's on Denver. I think if you're Miami, you're playing with house money. So I think, if you could, win Game 5 and try to like I said, you got to take it step by step. You can't ask LeBron and them, a few years back. I mean, when they were down 3-1 against the Warriors, I mean, they couldn't, LeBron has said it himself. I mean, they couldn't, they couldn't go ahead, and think Game 7. They got to take it one game at a time. That's what they got to do. So hopefully they can do it.
Yep. I want to ask you, Lakina, a question. I want to ask a question to you, Lakina, into our sports zone, our zoners, sports zone Chicago listeners and viewers. Some people had complained about Nikolai Jokic's game as being very boring and being very vanilla, which I totally disagree with. No, he doesn't have the personality of a Shaquille O'Neal or Michael Jordan, get in your face and yell and self-promote themselves to sell shoes or products in that nature. I know that's not Nikolai Jokic's nature, and I accept that, but his game is still, I respect his game. It's beautiful to watch. But I want to ask you, Lakina, first, and then I'll ask our listeners at Sports Zone Chicago's Facebook page or Sports Zone Chicago on YouTube. I see some parallels between Jokic and Tim Duncan. Remember, Tim Duncan got the same criticism. He's not a me first guy. He's boring. He doesn't excite anybody. Is this and that, but it's just the way those two guys played the game is what I respect. And do you believe that Nikolai Jokic is this era's Tim Duncan is because? Of course, he's not a demonstrative guy. He's not a me first guy. Hey, point at me. Get the cameras to look at me first. He's just a solid team guy. He's putting up numbers that we've never seen in the game of basketball, especially in this era that he's taking advantage of now. Do you see the similarities between him and Tim Duncan?
Well, I think I find it hilarious that people say that about him and Duncan because they're like, oh well, look, they're boring. Look, but when people get mad when you see guys like a Shaq and those type of guys, all types of great personalities. But yeah, when you have a guy like Jokic who doesn't do any of that, they get very upset. They say, "Oh, he's boring. Oh, he's this." I mean, look, no one, you can't please everybody. So yeah, it's just a little bit silly. But yeah, look, Jokic has been he is who he is. He's always been that guy. And look, he's not changing for anybody. If they do win tonight, I don't think he's going to change. So. And nor he shouldn't. I mean, look, let's just be who he's always been. And I think people need to just leave him alone in that front.
And I'm getting the sense of listening to some of these podcasts and some of these pundits that the Denver is getting the treatment like the San Antonio Spurs got back in the day. Now, I did have a problem from an entertainment standpoint that Coach Greg Popovich did take the offense out of basketball because those teams were very heavily defensive teams and they did it better than anybody during that era. But I see some similarities between Denver and those San Antonio teams. Well, they don't. First of all, both those teams do not have, like you said, me first demonstrative personalities. They played the game right, and number two, they have very good head coaches. Greg Popovich is not in the Hall of Fame already, which I think he is. If he's not, he'll be there. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So I'm saying correctly. Thank you. So, Greg Popovich, one of the top 5, top 10 greatest NBA coaches ever. And you saw how much he got out of his rosters. And Mike Malone, the apple doesn't fall too far from the tree. You remember his dad was the very first head coach of the Toronto Raptors, but before that, he was a traveling assistant coach. He was part of those bad boys Pistons teams in the late 80s, early 90s as an assistant coach. And so he knows what it takes to win. So the apple doesn't fall too far from the tree from the players and the coaches. And you just have to, whether it's your personal style or not, you have to give them their respect.
Yeah, I think people get very like I said, it's always back and forth with some people. They like, oh, they're boring or they're this, but when you do have guys that are quote unquote boring, everybody, oh, this guy, I don't want this guy. But then, look, I mean, if they win tonight, I mean, look, I want to let's wait and do the whole San Antonio comparison. Let's wait till if they win multiple champions before we start doing that. So I think that's a little bit disconcerting to them, and plus they actually score a lot more than that those Spurs teams. So I think it's a little bit kind of disconcerting to kind of compare them to that. When they haven't even won they haven't won anything yet, and if they do win tonight, I mean, look, they haven't won multiple, so I don't think they've earned that yet. But I think you got to earn that comparison. So we'll see what happens. But yeah, I mean, look, it's just silly to kind of make those types of comparisons. I think it's just dumb. Look, let's just let them be who they are and just leave it at that. So we'll see what happens in Game 5. We catch Game 5, of course, tonight on ABC. Of course, it's going to be, exclusively on ABC. And of course, in case there is a game 6, I mean, I'm not saying there isn't going to be a game 6, but in case there is, they'll be back in Miami on Thursday. So in case, if necessary, you can catch that, of course, 7:30 our time on ABC. So guys can check that out. As listen to Second City Sports on Sports Zone Chicago. Lakina McGee, Cindy Brown with you. We're going to do that hockey next, Sid. Of course, again, a clincher. A potential clincher in this case. Of course, We all saw the Knights. The Knights will try to clinch again tonight.
Tomorrow.
Tomorrow. Well, yeah, tomorrow on Tuesday. On Tuesday, that's on TNT. Of course, they couldn't have them both on at the same time, but I digress. But I think that might be intentional. But yeah, Panthers and Golden Knights. The Knights, will try to clinch at home. We saw what happened on Game 4, late last week. I think the key for me in this series is going to be look, try to keep your cool. I know the Panthers have been, that's been kind of been the problem. Keep your cool, without getting them dumb penalties. Try to set the tone early. Try to maybe see if you can, take the guys off for the Knights off their toes. But you got to think that those guys are on a mission. Aiden Hill, of course, who's the goalie for the Knights, kind of lost his cool a little bit. So, we'll see if they can kind of try to make that could make it interesting. This series interesting. Now the Panthers will try to do something that hasn't been done in almost 100 years. Why, you ask? Well, I mean, let's see. We haven't seen it been done 80 years. The only team to come back from a 3-1 deficit in a best-of-7 Stanley Cup final. Yeah, all the way back to 1942 in the Toronto Maple Leafs. They were actually down 3-0 at that time. So. They'll try to make history of that. So do you think they can extend the series tomorrow?
I think they can extend the series, but as far as the win, I don't think so, because watching the last two to three games, especially the last game from last Saturday in Game 4, it looks like Vegas has the tempo of the series under control. You notice how Vegas scored their goals on Saturday, Lakina. Florida came out flat, and their defense, I'm talking about Florida's defense, was set up badly. And Vegas took advantage of that. You saw that in the first goal of the game in the first period. You saw that with their second goal of the game to start the second period. Florida just got caught flat-footed, and they didn't know what to do. And as we told you last week on the show, when Vegas gets a lead, they can score with the best of them. Once they get a lead, they clamp down on you for defensively, and they're a tough, rugged team, and they don't make it hard for you. Now, Florida, give them credit. They tried to come back in the game, but it was just too little too late. Of course, you had that unnecessary scrummage at the end of the game. And it was silly and stupid, but by that time, Florida tried to catch fire, but they just ran out of time. As far as the actual game was concerned, Florida did play discipline within themselves. They only had 6 penalty minutes for the game. Yes, they had 15 block shots to Vegas's 30, but Florida still got down and dirty, but they were disciplined. But those 2 goals that I mentioned that they gave up to start both the first and the second periods really put them at a bind, but they slowly worked their way back into the game. They just ran out of time.
Yeah, I think that's been the problem. The time was a problem. And look, I saw that little scrum they had on Saturday night after that final whistle. You can kind of tell that that these teams do not like each other. I think the frustration starting to build in, and you feel for Florida because they actually had their chances to try to maybe perhaps make it interesting, perhaps maybe get that series, perhaps even tie it. But unfortunately, that didn't end up not happening. So. It's going to be interesting to see where the mindset is, especially, you're going to be in Vegas, it's going to be rocking. I'm sure there's going to be a lot of gambling going on too. Who's going to, the over under, who's going to score the game winner? Will it be Kachuk? Will it be Eichel? Summers, is there Dressasol and the rest of them? But it'll be interesting to see what happens there. But I think, Mercesol, but I'm wondering though, it's going to be interesting. Like I said, I mean, which goalie? I know Bobrovsky has, had his struggles lately. I know Aiden Hill, you kind of throw him off guard there in that, that one game in Game 3. But I'm wondering, can the Panthers do what they've been doing and perhaps maybe try to set that tone? I think the tone set is going to be the key here in this game. Now, I'm sure the Panthers, if they can keep their cool, keep the penalties to a minimum, I think they can try to win it. But if not, I mean, like I said, we're going to be seeing some partying in Vegas tonight.
Tomorrow.
Well, tomorrow. Well, yeah. I mean, look, I've got all my minds there, but whatever.
but basically, Florida is going to have to play a damn near perfect game, which is not impossible, but they had to stay disciplined, as you mentioned. They did win the face-off department 36-31, so that's a +5 edge there. But in the hits department, Vegas was more out-physical them at a +11 advantage at 32-21. And with the block shots I mentioned earlier, Vegas had a +15 advantage there. And the power play was really a non-factor for both these teams. So both of them were 0 for 1. But as you mentioned, could it become a factor in the game tomorrow night? Yes, it can. But like I said, Florida, you have to play discipline, force the action, and make the referees call penalties on Vegas. And if that works in your favor, you'll definitely have a chance to capitalize with the man advantage.
Yeah. Well, I think that's going to be really going to be the key. Like, if they do look at, like I said, if you try to get Vegas off guard, I think that's going to be another key tonight for that game because, again, like I know Vegas is going to want to clinch it, tomorrow, and I'm wondering that's going to be kind of like the thing. Can they try to make the crowd a non-factor? I'm talking about the Panthers. Try to make the get Kachuk to try to get shots on goal and Verhey to try to get those shots on goal. I think that's going to be the thing. Bobrovsky, I mean, he has stepped up. He's stepped up so far in the playoffs. It's climbing up and down in the final. But if we see the Bobrovsky that we saw in the earlier round, especially against Boston, coming back from 3-1 to win that series. I'm wondering, can he be that guy again? So I think he's going to be the key, I think, tomorrow.
Yeah. I couldn't agree more. It's just a correction on the stats. The Florida Panthers had 6 total penalties for the game, 20, which equaled 20 penalty minutes. But they got away with them not having a whole lot of power plays called on them. I think most of those penalty minutes came at the end of that.
Yeah,
that silly scrummish.
That's scrum, yeah.
But with that being said, Florida still has to play a discipline game, get traffic in front of Aiden Hill, and create some scoring chances, and take advantage of the man advantage if the opportunity presents itself. So, can it be done? Yes, but it's going to be awfully difficult.
Going to be very interesting to see what happens here. But yeah, of course, you can check out Game 5 of that series between the Panthers and the Knights tomorrow night on TNT at 7:00. With on the call there for the game at 7 tomorrow night. Now, in case there is a Game 6, again, same thing with the NBA. It won't be until Friday. So you'll get a couple of days off. You'll travel. It'll be back in Florida. So we'll see what happens tomorrow night. But I'm hoping if you're the Panthers, you better try to set the tone early. But we'll see what happens with that. As I can see, sports on Sports Chicago, Kingdom McGee, Cindy Brown with you. Now we got a little bit of time left, sis. So let's talk some NFL. All right.
All right. The NFL never seems to disappoint us, especially at this time of year.
Yeah,
as I always say.
Yeah. Mandatory mini camps going on right now as we speak with some of the various teams. We got Aaron Rodgers, of course, practicing with the Jets. He and excuse me, and he went to the Tony Awards last night, so that was a pretty
a man around town.
Yeah, I'll say he's been making the rounds here, doing the various places. But some of the going across the borough and with the Giants. Saquon Barkley has said that he said in an interview on I think it was I don't know if it was yesterday or it might have been on Saturday, that he said he's not going to mandatory minicamp. He said that he's looking for a new contract, and he said that I they're kind of miles apart, talking about the Giants, and he said he's not going to show up for mandatory minicamp. So what do you think?
I think they still had the franchise / transition tag on him, correct?
I believe so.
So it's about still the Giants still hold the advantage in this situation. But look, Saquon Barkley, he had a good year last year after tearing his ACL a couple years ago here in Chicago. He was very valuable in that Giants offense outside the quarterback Daniel Jones, who also had fresh cash this offseason. So we know that the value of the running back is not as high as it once was, Lakina. Back when you and I started watching football, and the value of the running back is starting to decrease over the years is due to the quarterbacks and the wide receivers. So Saquon Barkley is still a very good, productive running back when healthy. He showed you that last year. It'll come down to how much he's going to get paid from the Giants organization, because Daniel Jones, when he's good with his limited parts that he had last year that was healthy, Daniel Jones was good. Of course, head coach Brian Daboll, who will be entering his second year, had that Buffalo Bills style offense tailored to Jones' style, and it worked last year and got him a playoff win. But none of this will not happen without Saquon Barkley's presence. But I think at some point in time, Barkley is going to get his deal.
Yeah, we'll see if they can figure it out. Like I said, I think they say it's mandatory mini camps, but you guys, it isn't really mandatory. So if he's going to miss it, I guess we'll be just see what happens with that. But yeah, I think it's interesting what he said in his comments over the weekend, as of course Aaron Rodgers and CJ Uzama, of course they were at the Tonys last night. Of course, like you said, we've been seeing him. We saw him in a couple of Knicks games. I think he was at a couple of Rangers games too in the playoffs. That playoff against the Devils, but he's kind of been sort of like the man about town, I guess. I'm talking about Aaron Rodgers, so I'll be interested to see if once that changes, especially if they go through a slow start.
Yeah,
that's gonna be that they might turn you. I think he's gonna realize that the New York press will turn you pretty quick. I mean, the Packers press has been a little bit; it'll be a little lenient, but New York press is a total different animal.
I hope someone in this camp told him that, or just maybe that with his personality that he's just going to shrug it up and say, "Okay, I don't care. My life is better than y'all's." So he can go take that and throw it in the Hudson River. No pun intended. But we expect the Jets, at least most pundits expect the Jets to be good this year. On paper, they're the second team or the third best team in the AFC East. It depends on where you personally see them. But Aaron Rodgers really upgrades that team. Obviously, the Jets still have a young defense. Now, on the offense, you have second-year guy Garrett Wilson. Breece Hall will be making his return. Remember, he suffered a torn ACL last year, and so you have a solid running game there. So you still have other veteran wide receivers to surround Rodgers. So the key here is Aaron Rodgers staying healthy, but first it starts with that offensive line. If they can keep Mr. Rodgers upright, things should be good for them this year. Now, will they beat Buffalo for that division? I'm not so sure. Will they beat Miami? Maybe, but I think it's going to be a good year, but I think it's going to be a little bit tougher than what people think.
Well, look, you still got a Bills team that have a lot to say about that in AFC East. So we'll see what happens with that. Now going to the NFC North, the Vikings continue to make changes. Danielle Hunter, who was their All-Pro defensive end, has said that he's not going to show up for mandatory camps with the Vikings. So what do you think about that? I mean, we saw them. They trade Dalvin Cook. Other guys. They let Eric Hendricks go. He's with the Chargers. You got Adam Thielen. He's gone now. He's with the Panthers. So what do you think of what the Vikings are doing? Do you think this whole thing with Hunter can be resolved?
You would hope so, because as we said before last year, Lakina, that defense was in transition because a lot of their players, their key players, were getting older. You mentioned one of them, Kendricks, they had to let go this offseason. And so their defense is still in transition again. We all know that they won with offense last year with new head coach Kevin O'Connell, which he'll be entering in year number 2. And can they keep up the same formula? I don't think so, because you know this as well as I do. The NFL is a copycat league. Once something works and people get a read of you, get a hold of your film, it's on you to adjust, because the other team is going to have to try to stop it. And even though Kirk Cousins did have a good year last year, I don't know if he's going to have a better year this upcoming season. But back to the Vikings defense, they still don't have the young impact players, in my opinion, that's going to help their team get to the next level. They had a great year last year. Part of it was smoke and mirrors, and some of those games did go in their advantage where it shouldn't have been according to the odds. But their defense is still a work in progress. I don't know if they can repeat the same formula as they did a year ago.
Good, be interested to see what they do with that. And also, real quick before we go to break, Tampa Bay is bringing back their critical unis, well, at least for the October 15th game against Detroit, the old NFC
Central
Division rivals. I got that Central Division rivals, and that's going to be interesting. I guess I actually like the creamsicle uniforms, and I think it's going to be interesting how they look. Of course, I'm sure some people will say, look, they didn't have a lot of success with those creamsicle uniforms, but I liked them. I thought they were cool.
Yeah, as long as you bring I know they wore them like a decade ago from, like you said, one of those throwback games and whatnot. Mm-hmm. And so as long as they do at least once or twice a year, you're okay. And I don't think they did it when Brady was there. If they did, please let me know. They didn't? No, they didn't. If they did, please let me know. But yeah, so I think that's old and popular is good again. So, and that's what happened with these Tampa Bay orange uniforms. Of course, it takes us back to our age, Lakina, growing up watching in the whole NFC Central with them getting beat down by the Vikings, Bears, and Packers. And so it'll be nice to see the new players in them again, just even if it's just for one game.
the old saying, everything old is new again. The old NFC Central, the old NFC Central. Good grief, the Tampa was the laugh face out of that division at 1.2 for many years. So I think actually them leaving the division was probably better for them. Of course, getting rid of those creeps as well. So that definitely.
They used to Texas in the NFL expansion in back 21 years ago.
Yes. Oh gosh, and also too. Actually, JJ Watt is actually going to be in the Ring of Honor. They're actually going to be the Texans play the Steelers and his brother TJ. So it's going to be interesting. That's going to be a pretty emotional moment for him. So,
perfect timing, huh?
Yeah. So I wonder what made him think to do that. But yeah, that's going to be coming up in September. But yeah. I like the Crease will use it. They're fine. But yeah, we're going to take a really quick break. Of course, we're going to be doing some rapid fire stuff with talking tennis, crazy things happening in golf up north yesterday and a whole lot more. Of course, we got Old School TV Monday coming up.
Double Old School TV Monday coming up. So a lot to do still. Second Seed Sports on Sports Soul Chicago coming up as we wrap things up right after this.
This year, my mom got me the perfect bag for back to school.
These colorful binders help me stay organized.
These headphones are just what I need for studying.
These new sneakers are just what I needed for the new year.
This jacket is a real must-have.
My parents got me the skateboard I wanted. It's pretty cool.
These scissors really come in handy in art class.
These colored pencils, too. These new socks, they can be a real lifesaver.
I finally got my own phone to stay in touch with my mom.
Trisha's having a sleepover tonight. Can I go?
I wonder about Lucy's friends. What should I say? I know you're only 10, but one of these days a friend will offer you a drink. And alcohol at your age can lead to so many things. None of them good.
So can I go to the sleepover?
Lucy, I want you to promise me
I
something.
finished my homework.
Bigger promise. If there's any drinking, I want you to say, "No thanks, not my thing."
Mom.
I promise you, your real friends won't care. Deal?
Sure.
Really?
I promise, Mom.
They really do hear you.
Did you pack your toothbrush?
For tips on how to start the talk, visit underagedrinking.samhsa.gov, a public service message from the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration.
Hey, this is Dr. J, and I listen to Sean and Maya in the morning.
Very late to the beat. Welcome back to our last segment of the show on this Monday edition of Second City Sports. We're live and live in color right here on Sports Zone Chicago. I'm Sid. That's Lakina. You can follow yours truly on the Twitter and the IG at SidKid80. Once again, that's SidKid80. That's SIDKID80. SIDKID80.
Oh boy, it's a little cool here in Chicago, Virginia. You follow that Keenan McGill on the Twitter and Keenan's going to begin on the IG. I just want to clean these up here. That Ring of Honor ceremony with JJ Watt, of course. The Texans will be hosting his brother TJ Watt and the Steelers. That'll be on October 1st. Just want to clean that up.
All right. We have 25 minutes or so left of this extravaganza. We call it Sports Talk Radio Show. You have any last-minute questions or comments, you can always hit us up on the comment section at Sports Zone Chicago's Facebook page or at Sports Zone Chicago YouTube. Type in those questions or comments in the comment section. Lakino will get them up on the screen for you.
All right, so we're going to be doing some of this stuff for rapid fire. So, as we get ready for a double dose of old school TV Monday, we'll start on, let's start with golf because that's been like the big, a big topic here today. Nick Taylor becomes the first Canadian to win the RBC Canadian Open. First guy to do it in 69 years. He stuck a 72-foot putt in a fourth playoff hole against Tommy Fleetwood to win his first tour, PGA career PGA Tour title. It was pandemonium in Canada. It was just, if you heard the call with Jim Nantz, of course it was on CBS. If you heard the call, I watched it live. I got goosebumps. It was like, look, whenever you win something big in Canada, you're like a cult figure there. So the fact that he won this, I'm talking about Taylor won this the first time in 69 years to win their national Open is just amazing. But it was actually what happened afterwards as he and his caddy Dave Markle were celebrating. Adam Bodwin, who finished his round a couple of hours prior to that. Adam Hadwin, I've seen this spelled the very different way. Adam Hadwin, who's a close friend of Nick Taylor's, he was on his way to try to spray stuff. He and Mike Weir, who was a Masters champion, of course, Corey Connors, who was right there in contention. In the PGA Championship a couple of weeks ago, they were trying to spray with champagne. I guess Hadwin got tackled by a security guard. So that poor guy. So of course, everyone's making a laugh about it. The guy did apologize to Hadwin afterwards. Even Hadwin's wife Jessica was making fun of him too. Like, dude, you're using cheap champagne. Of course, he tackled you. So everyone took it all this right. Everyone laughed about it. It was hilarious, but it was still like a really big moment for Canada because it was sort of like a major type situation there. So the fact that Taylor was able to win it, of course, Hadwin, what happened with him and all that, just a crazy that happened after that. But it was an awesome moment. So if you guys didn't see it, check it out on YouTube.
Yes, I mentioned to you before we went on live. I saw the video on social media, and then of course I saw it on TV a couple of times. I'm sure that security thought it was just another dumb fan trying to make himself social media famous or whatnot, or just trying to be a part of the celebration. And you tackled them, but like I said, I'm glad everything got squared away ASAP. Hopefully you don't hear any stupid news about lawsuits or anything of that nature, which I don't think now, like you say, because they handle that situation ASAP. So, like I said, it was a good moment for that golfer, but I felt sorry for that guy that got tackled.
Yeah.
I'm like, what did I do?
Yeah, it wasn't me. I didn't do anything, but like I said, and everyone laughed about it. And of course, like I said, Dale, the security guard apologized because I guess he didn't have it. Hadwin didn't have his gear on. I guess because like I said, he had finished prior. He actually changed his clothes. He went from his usual golf gear to like regular clothes. So he didn't have his badge, I guess, on him. So I guess that's probably why the guy, the guard tackled him. So that was a little bit kind of crazy. But just like I said, just how much. But even still, besides that, I mean, the fact that someone from Canada, Nick Taylor, he's going to be going to the U.S. Open, which coming up this weekend. We'll talk about that on Friday. But just the sheer nature of what happened, how big it was for Canadian golf. I mean, like I said, Mike Weir won the Masters in 2002. It was big celebrated, but it wasn't celebrated as much as it was here tonight, last night, because it was such a big moment. This is their national championship, so you got to give a little bit of credit there. But yeah, just the craziest afterwards. But yeah, we can learn something from I know here in the States that happened here. Of course, there would be lawsuits and that, but in Canada, just laughing about it. So we can take a cue from them.
Yeah.
All right, so we're gonna go to the clay courts of Roland Garros. Tiz, we'll start with the men's side, of course. Novak Djokovic won his third French Open, his 23rd Grand Slam title on yesterday, and beat, of course, Casper Ruud. We'll get to him in a second. This is like his fourth runner-up finish. I'm talking about Ruud, but the fact that Djokovic, 23rd Grand Slam, ties with Serena Williams among both men and women, passes Nadal and Federer. The fact that he's still doing this at 36, I mean, it's just amazing. It was just a great match, and it wasn't easy. He got pushed. He got pushed hard against a couple of those early rounds, even before Ruud. Ruud was actually up 3-0 for the opening set. You thought that maybe, okay, this might be a little bit tougher, but Novak came back. They were able to win it in straight sets, and just a great moment for him. And I know you said you saw a little bit of it. What did you think?
First of all, congratulations to Mr. Jokic for winning another title. I wanted to ask you, Lakina, since you're more the tennis aficionado than I am, do you think that Jokic is the greatest male tennis player ever? I don't know if I asked you this before, but it kind of I kind of had this question with especially on the American men's side. We haven't had a star on the men's side since Andy Roddick. That was over 20 years ago. But I want to ask you: is Jokic the greatest male tennis player ever? And do you think they will ever get a big star, especially transcends the game here in the United States?
I'm hoping
as far as tennis is concerned.
Well, yeah, I'm hoping that Francis Tiafoe, I know he's been close a couple of times, made it to the round of 16 in the French. He's actually been pretty far in some of these other tournaments. We'll see what happens at Wimbledon in a couple of weeks, but I'm hoping that he breaks through. Yeah, we'll get to the women's side in a second. But yeah, going back to Djokovic, I mean, look, he just turned 36 a few weeks ago. And the fact that he's still playing at such a high level is just, insane. Of course, you saw he hasn't had those, though. He has had some injuries, but he hasn't had the injury issues that Rafa is going through right now, that Federer's been going through the last few years. He can still win a couple more. Look, he's halfway through the Grand Slam. If you remember, Sid, we talked about when we first started doing the show on here. He was very close he was one match away from doing it a couple of years ago. And I know that still hurts him that he wasn't able to get that Grand Slam, calendar Grand Slam. He has a chance to do it. So we'll see what happens. He's gonna rest up, going into Wimbledon and such. And look, I feel like this could be a shot to perhaps maybe making him probably the best of all time. Because I think he's proven that, look, he's the youngest of the crew. I remember when he first won his first Grand Slam title, that was the Aussie Open in 08. And if you remember, he was just trying to see he idolized Rafa and Federer. So he wanted the fact that he just wanted to make sure B is just as good. The fact that he might be even better than those two guys, it's crazy. You saw Tom Brady was there in his box. He was talking to his wife, folks. All these folks were like, "Oh, that's a pretty lady that Brady was talking to." That's Djokovic's wife, Jelena. So relax, folks. But yeah, I mean, that was a pretty good moment. And I think Novak, I think is on his way to become the best, especially if he wins the Grand Slam this year. And also, too, as far as the Americans concerned, hopefully Tiafoe can break through. But yeah, it's going to be hard now going on the women's side. Well, unless you want to have to finish up that thought on the men's side.
No, I think you just pretty much summed it for me. You're talking about guys like Rafael Nadal, and I was thinking about the guys from the past, Jimmy Connors, John McEnroe. But recently, when we were teenagers, Andre Agassi and Pete Sampras. Djokovic's name is up there with those group of guys as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, I think he's definitely going to want that Grand Slam. So we'll see what happens in a couple of weeks. And Wimbledon on the ladies' side, of course, Iga Swiatek, again, she wins her 4th Grand Slam, her 3rd French Open, winning in 3 sets. I mean, Karolina Muchova, you give her credit for at least, she was up 6-2 in the first set. You thought that maybe, oh, good, this is going to be like a blowout, but give Muchova credit for coming back, win that second set. Of course, Swiatek was able to pull away late on Saturday. She's actually now 4-0 in major finals. Talk about Swiatek is in the Open era. The only players to win that each of their first 4 Grand Slam finals are Federer, Monica Seles, and Naomi Osaka. She's only 22. Talk about Swiatek is. She's the youngest woman. Women's 4-time major champion since 20-year-old Serena did it when she was she won her 4th in the 02 U.S. Open. So she's the dominant force right now. She did beat Coco Gauff. I know what you're going to ask. Will Coco Gauff, break through and perhaps maybe win a Grand Slam? I think she can. She got as far as the semifinals in the Aussie Open. She made it to the quarters. Swiatek beat her in the French. Wimbledon, grass is more her surface. Swiatek still trying to figure out the grass part. I think she lost in the quarters last year in Wimbledon. So you got to think that might be Coco's best shot at getting her 1st Grand Slam. I think she will do it. I think it's going to matter when she do it. I don't think the pressure's on her just yet. She's only 19 still, but I'm wondering if she doesn't win this year, I think next year the pressure will get to her if she doesn't win one this year.
I was going to ask you about Madison Keys too, but I know you said the last time we talked about her, she had a bunch of setbacks in terms of
Injuries, yeah.
injuries and things of that nature. So hopefully she can get back up to the top of her game in that as well. Because a few years ago, both of them were being talked about as the next female stars, and that both haven't broken out together as of yet.
Yeah, and that's been the problem the last few years on the women's side. So they've got the talent. The talent's there for the women's side. On the American side, it's just it's just even unfortunate that hasn't been the case. I do want to give a shout out to Chicago. One female player that has been doing it, and that's Taylor Townsend, who's from right here in Chicago. She actually wins the doubles title, and her and Layla Fernandez. Of course, you guys remember her Layla Fernandez. If you guys remember her, she actually made it to the finals of the U.S. Open a couple of years ago. She and Townsend won the women's doubles. Made it all the way to the finals. They lost in a tough one in 3 sets, but they made it to the finals. So I want to give them a little bit of props. I know Townsend made it to the scene a few years back at Wimbledon. She did pretty well too. First she's been on the Grand Slam on the doubles side. They actually are one of the top doubles teams in the country, her and Fernandez. So they've been, just want to give a shout out to them for at least made it to the finals. They lost a tough one yesterday, but yeah, I think the talent's there for the women, but they just haven't been able to break through. And the Swartek, the way she's been playing, it's going to be hard for to break through that. But we'll see.
Yep. Hopefully they can break out soon. Any other news and nuggets, Lakina, before we get to our double play?
Yes, real quick. Man City, the Manchester City, which is going to soccer now. Man City, they won the treble. Now, for those who wonder what that is, the treble is they won the Premier League, they won the FA Cup, and they won the European Cup, which is the UEFA Champions League. They win it for the first time. Of course, they're the second team to do it since Man U, 1999. I remember that because I remember seeing that. That was one of the few. That was one of the first time they started showing soccer more and more here in the States. They dominate Inter Milan. 1-0. Rodri, had that game winner there as well. Just a great great strike by him, and you got to give him a little bit of props. Pep Guardiola, he's actually the first to do it with multiple teams on the men's side. He did it with Barcelona back in 2008 and 2009. Just want to give him a little bit of a shout there. I know we don't talk about soccer much here, but just an amazing accomplishment. Of course, Man City's been one of the top teams in the Premier League the last few years. Look, weird things happen in soccer. They could totally stick it up next year because we know that happens a lot in soccer. But just want to give them their props for what they've been doing because it's accomplished that not a lot of teams have done. I think they're like the 12th, the 10th. They're like the 19th to do it. So just want to give them their due.
And the other piece of breaking news before we get to our double play, this news came out at least a couple hours ago before we went on there. The Athletic, which we had a couple of people on who worked for that organization over the past few years. They're cutting 4% of their staff, which equals 20 writers who have lost their jobs today. And some of the names that have been released were Daniel Kaplan and Bill Shea, the sports business reports.
Wow.
Yeah, I know. From the NHL, their staff editor, Josh Cooper, and their Canadian national senior writer, Sean Fitzgerald. The Montreal senior editor and writer, Marc-Antoine Godin. Dallas Cowboys beat writer, Bob Strum. He did some great work. Yeah, Cincinnati Bengals beat writer, Jay Morrison. Philadelphia 76ers beat writer, Rich Hoffman. Cleveland Cavaliers beat reporter, Kelsey Russo. And Pittsburgh Pirates beat reporter, Bob Bertenfeld. And there are some names. There are more names that be unfortunately released soon. So unfortunately, as we said before, this is the ugly side of our business. Of course, we talked about what's going on with ESPN as we speak with their layoffs, and of course, they're trying to get a new contract from the NBA in the next 2 years. The Athletic is now going through the same thing. We wish all those writers much continued success in the future as they're trying to find other work.
Yeah, of course, this is sort of like the nature of the business. You got cut ties, and you got to save a little bit of money for more digitized stuff. So it's unfortunate that those folks, a couple of those folks, we've had a couple of those folks on the show. So you feel for those folks, and hopefully, I'm sure that they're all very talented writers. So I'm sure they'll land on their feet somewhere. I have no doubt. But this is unfortunately the changing landscape of media, sports media, especially.
Yeah. So we wish them all the best in their future endeavors. All right, Lakina, let's end this episode on something fun as we usually do around this time. It's time for Old School TV Monday, and today we're going to do a double play. You guys are definitely going to like this one. You ready for the first one?
Let's go.
All right. Since it's June and this is Black Music Month, Lakina, this I'll take you back to about 22 years ago. What did you watch around 5 p.m. Central Standard Time every Monday through Friday?
Oh shoot! Crap. You know how long ago that was, Sid? Are we talking about? Are we talking about 106 in Park?
Yes, we are. Yay!
I got it! Woohoo!
Yes. Told you he was gonna like this one. 106 in Park was an American hip hop and R&B music show, which was set up in a countdown format that was broadcast every weekday at 6 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Central Standard Time on BET, and it aired on a one-day delay on BET International. It was the network's highest rated show throughout its run. On November 14, 2014, BET canceled 106 in Park with the led shift to digital-only format with occasional specials during network event program through the last time it was seen on any format was at the 2016 BET Experience, and the digital-only program never aired. The show was originally produced in Harlem, New York, and the title of the show was derived from its original studio location. NFP's Metropolis Studios at East 106th Street and Park Avenue. In 2001, Viacom's acquisition of BET prompted a change to the CBS Broadcast Center at 521 West 57th Street between 10th and 11th Avenues in the Hell's Kitchen section of Midtown Manhattan, doing this title into the misnomer for the rest of its history. Some of the show's hosts that got their start from this program, of course, AJ and Free from 2000 to 2005, Jaleisha and Big Tigger, former hosts of BET's Rap Cities, doing radio in Atlanta now, 2005 to 2006. Terrence J and Roxy, 2006 to 2012. Remember, Roxy got a start here in Chicago on Power 92 at middays back in the day. Of course, Bow Wow and The Surge from 2012 to 2013. And, of course, Bow Wow and Keisha Shantae from 2013 to this end of his run in 2014.
Yeah, I love that program. Of course, it shows you some of the best hits in hip hop, and that was one of the first times that BET actually did that. Because oddly enough, they had Rap City, MTV Raps on MTV, but this is sort of like that. They were kind of like was really kind of the hard, hip hop, especially since you did see some of the top hip hop, guys and gals perform there, and I feel like AJ and Free, I think were kind of like my favorite co-hosts. Roxy,
me too.
Roxy and Terrence J. I mean, they're a close second. I think they're kind of like 1A for me. The others, no shade to Bow Wow, but I just think that particular format just didn't really fit him, if that makes sense. Mm-hmm. And like I said, I think once corporate started taking over and kind of like started telling them what they can and cannot show on television, I think that was sort of like the kind of like what killed it, the momentum. And look, it was sort of like hip hop's answer to TRL, I guess, on MTV.
Yes, it was, and it beat TRL doing this run too.
Yeah, it did, occasionally, especially among, I guess, like younger viewers. So it just shows you it wasn't just black people watching; it was whites, it was Hispanics, Asian folks that were watching.
You saw some of them in the audience too. Even though it was dominated by us, but you saw some like you said, some other fans of other ethnicities in the audience too.
Right. So yeah, it was definitely one of those shows that definitely kind of transcend that. And I think it took it to a whole nother level. And look, it's unfortunate that, the digital, it digitized and, the music, the thing kind of changed. And look, you feel for that, for them. But look, for what it was, that, 106 Park was actually probably one of the best sort of like type shows. You saw American Bandstand, Soul Train. It kind of joins, it's kind of in that group. So, that they had guys, and gals perform on there. So it was really, it had some great moments. I mean, Aaliyah's final interview was on 106 in Park. The death of Michael Jackson's death was announced on 106 in Park. It had some really great moments. Of course, he had Sierra's first performance on BET. Of course, so Chingy and Trina, they had their little sort of performance as well. So yeah, so some of the really good moments from that show, and it's unfortunate you can actually still watch some of the shows on YouTube, so you can watch some of the episodes. So, but yeah, I really liked it. It definitely kind of gave a face to the hip hop generation, because it really wasn't being shown much on some of the other shows.
Yeah, absolutely. And number two, it's just a couple of things. Number two, they also introduced Freestyle Fridays. Of course, you can say no uhs, no ums, no n-word, no curse words. And you actually had a couple of breakout stars.
Not before Nick Cannon's Wild On. This is
exactly. This was the precursor to Nick Cannon's show. Yes, yes. People don't give the 1-6 part of the credit for that, but yeah, this was pre-Wild and Out fame. And a few of those rappers did get some contracts off of Freestyle Friday from that segment as well.
Yep. So yeah, absolutely. And like I said, I think it definitely gave a voice to those particular so it has some great moments. And also, like I said, that freestyle. I mean, look, Wild and Out, with Nick Cannon, people forget that's where it originated. That's where the inspiration came from. So I think people need to kind of give 106 and Park their props for that. But yeah, it's unfortunate that they don't have this stuff on. But I get it. Digitized the way music is is presented now. You can go on Spotify. You can go on iTunes. You don't really need a show like 106 and Park anymore to promote your music. But even still, I mean, they didn't have that back then. So this was the only way you can get your stuff.
Right. It was just internet back then. It was just taking off. That was it. Yeah.
Yep. So yeah. Of course you had LimeWire and Napster, but yeah, I think this was definitely kind
of those were the days.
Oh Lord, good, interesting times there. But yeah, but this is sort of like, but it kind of showcased a lot of the top hip hop guys and gals. It was just great to see everybody everyone celebrated in that front. So yeah, I think 106 and Park. Yep. Excuse me, we give them to do a little bit more.
Yeah, real quick before we get to our other show, did you have any moments that stood out to you from that show?
Like I said, I mean, Aaliyah, she performed there. Of course, unfortunately, ended up being her final interview just about a couple months before she died.
That was one of mine too. The tribute episode really got me.
That was really sweet. Yeah, it was really you tell the emotion that that AJ for you felt that emotion that they had for that day after it happened, and you kind of Free was on the verge of tears. You could tell how powerful that was. Sierra's first performance was on BET. Yeah, her first BET performance, her breakout hit. I think it was 127. I think that was her breakout hit. I think.
Missy Elliott was behind that, and Jesse Faye. Of course, you remember his dad was a part of the Barcades back in the day.
Yeah, so that was another big moment there on that show. And do you have any yourself? I know there's a couple more that I thought, but I don't remember.
Yeah. I've seen the clip a couple of times. I think it's still on YouTube. Justin Timberlake having his breakout performance, even though he had a brief, short solo career. He rocked it out on 106 and Park. I remember seeing that clip. But it was a couple of old school artists that got there doing 106 and Park as well. Remember the now late Luther Vandross. Remember that song, Can I Take You Out Tonight? Before Jay-Z and Chris Brown ripped it off. He was on that show. Yeah, he was on that show. I think it's a clip somewhere on YouTube.
Yeah, I'm sure it's.
And remember when Avant first came out, he had that duet with Kiki Wire.
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah.
I forgot what song. I can't think of it.
It wasn't. I'll look it up. It wasn't separated. I know it was. It wasn't that.
It wasn't separated. My First Love. It was called My First. Remember, Renee Angela did that song, and that's a surprise. Renee. See, this happens as you turn 30 and your memory starts to slip.
You and I.
Angela Woodbush came out and performed the duet with Avant and Kiki Wyatt. I thought that was awesome.
That was a really nice because I think they had to she almost took him to court because the producers didn't.
Right, sampling. You gotta get that clear first. Yeah.
But they figured it out. They reached a settlement, they figured it out. So all cooler heads prevailed there, and then thank goodness. But that was another great moment there as well. But they had some really great moments. Look, you check out a lot of the stuff on YouTube. I'm sure there are going to be full episodes and clips. So make sure you guys check it out. If you haven't, boy, did you guys miss out. I'm sorry, but
So for our Black Music Month salute for Old School TV Monday, we salute BET's 106 and Park. All right, looking at real quick before we jet up out of here. Can you remember where you were doing 32 years ago tonight?
I don't know what I did yesterday. Let me see. 32 years. Okay. That was 1991. Oh. Was that when the Bulls clinched their first title?
Yes. Today is the anniversary. That's right. It was Wednesday, June 12th, 1991, Game 5 of the NBA Finals between the Chicago Bulls and the Los Angeles Lakers from the Great Western Forum. Of course, the Bulls were leading that series 3-1. Michael Jordan had a big game. Most people forgot about this. Scottie Pippen had a great game too, leading the team with 30 points. But it was John Paxson's 26 points, including 12 in the fourth quarter, when Phil Jackson told Michael Jordan's John Paxson was open. Of course, John Paxson saved the day and helped the Bulls pull away to win their first title. Of course, remember on the flip side for the Los Angeles Lakers, James Worthy and Byron Scott were out. Rookies Tony Campbell and Tony Smith were filling in on the starting lineup. Both of them had great games, and the Lakers were led by 1 point at halftime. But it was a classic back and forth game between the two teams. The Lakers actually should have won that game, to be honest with you.
Yeah, if you're being honest, yeah.
But Michael and Scotty and Bill Cartwright kept the Bulls in the game. Of course, John Paxson, as I mentioned, opened it up in the fourth quarter, which helped the Bulls pull away. Of course, I was on vacation from my 9 to 5 last week. Lakina, I ended up watching the whole thing, including the parade and in the post-like locker room. I started crying because at that time the Bulls were celebrating their 25th anniversary season, and the Bulls haven't won anything as a franchise. The last professional championship in the city of Chicago was the 1985 Chicago Bears. Of course, we all know what a big story they were, not just locally but nationally. But of course, during that time with the 91 Chicago Bulls, Michael Jordan was the king of the sports world, the king of the NBA. He was one of the most famous humans on the planet. Of course, we talk about his struggles, with the Detroit Pistons, losing to them in the East, them in the Eastern Conference Finals the previous 2 years. The first time the Bulls lost to them was in the second round in 1988. Of course, during that championship season, of course, they beat the Knicks in the first round, sweeping them. They beat the Philadelphia 76ers in 5. They finally got past the Pistons, sweeping them in 4 straight, including winning games 3 and 4 at the Palace of Auburn Hills. Of course, Isaiah Thomas and his mates not congratulating the Bulls and walking off the court afterwards. But that game 5 between the Bulls and the Lakers, of course, it will go down one of the greatest games in the Bulls franchise history. The Bulls would start a dynasty after that. It was a great moment, if you're not just for Bulls fans, but for all the Chicagoans. Of course, if you're an NBA fan, you're a Jordan fan, it was a great moment for you as well. I just remember that my late mother and her family friend, who still lives with me in my building, we actually talked about this the other day when I caught up with her, that it was some of the best times, watching sports and watching the ascension of Michael Jordan in the Bulls, getting past the Pistons, being competitive against Cleveland, seeing the rise of Horace Grant, Scottie Pippen, acquiring Bill Cartwright a couple of years before, John Paxson being inserted into the starting lineup. Let's talk about Craig Hodges as well. Being the three-point king, winning a couple of those competitions at those All-Star weekends. Also, you had a rookie named Scott Williams who bypassed Stacey King, who was his second year in the rotation off the bench. Of course, it was the first year of Good News Cliff Levingston. He also contributed mightily to that Bulls title run in 1991. So the Chicago Bulls, it was a great moment for them. And they transcended the city of Chicago. They made us citizens proud, and they were on Oprah the following day after the rally, and so they got some more national love there. So I wanted to give props to the Chicago Bulls today. 32 years ago, they won their first ever NBA championship. I was going to tell you, Lakina, before you came back, I had tears in my eyes watching it last week, and I said, let me not wipe out. I'm not going to wipe these tears away because at that time, for me, going to some of those games with my late mother and my family friends, I said, who still lives in my building. I actually ran into her the other day, and we talked about today, which was the anniversary to win their first championship. Those are great times. We watched Michael Jordan grow up right in front of our eyes as a player and as a person, and of course that team became lovable. And the Bulls weren't more known much as a franchise before 1991. Of course, we saw them transcend into a championship team the last couple of years, especially being knocked out by the Pistons. But all their hard work and those trades by now Hall of Famer and the late great GM Jerry Krause finally paid off in 1991.
Yeah, it was definitely one of those, we were in Chicago, definitely one of those remember where you were moments. I was at home watching with my family, and there was a lot of
same here.
Let's say it was pandemonium. I guess there were people running around. I was living in a courtyard in apartment building in a courtyard at the time. People were in the courtyard. They were celebrating. They were shooting fireworks. They were shooting. Also, too, of course, you saw what happened. The whole thing. With the like people were breaking things. You thought that maybe.
Well, the first championship, everybody behaved. It was the next one and the ones following it that some of you started acting a fool.
Right. It was actually when the Bears won the Super Bowl in '86. I mean, everybody could hear a pin drop. I think because it was cold that day.
It was cold.
That's probably why no one wanted to be bothered with that. But in this case, it was warm. It was actually like in the '70s. It was actually very humid, and of course, everyone acted stupid. People were setting fires to businesses. Like, what's the point in doing? They still do that, unfortunately. It's just stupid. But it is what it is. You're always gonna have fools that act like idiots. But I remember that moment. Of course, Paxton hit that go-ahead 3-pointer. Of course, that would clinch that game. And of course, but also, like you said, if we're being honest, if you saw the game on NBC, the Lakers should have won that game. It should have been a game 7. And look, you take the luck if you got it, but it's sort of one of those things where the Bulls could have easily lost that game and perhaps even lost that series. So, but again, of course, some of the top guys, some of the Lakers got hurt, and Campbell and the rest of that crew, I mean, they did what they could to kind of keep the Lakers in it, but the Bulls just too much after that.
Yeah, and at the time, we didn't know that it would be Magic Johnson's last game because we all know what transpired a few months later. Of course, thank goodness he's still with us living, and he did eventually come back, but even though it was short-lived. But that was when Magic Johnson was still in his prime. He still had game left in him. And remember at that time, it was talking about him retiring. He never said that, but he said he would reevaluate himself because he was getting older as a player, but he still had a lot left. But, thank goodness he's still with us. And like I said, he finished his career on his own terms. And it was the passing of the baton from Magic to Michael Jordan. Of course, we all know what Jordan and the Bulls did after that, not only for the sport of basketball, but for the league in the United States as a whole, really transcending the NBA from not just an American brand, but to the sport of basketball to an international brand as well.
Yeah, I mean, in NBC, I think that was their first year with the.
Yes, it was.
You wonder though how that all kind of like transcended and everything else with I know people prefer the NBA on NBC theme, but look, I've always been a proponent of the NBA on CBS theme. I like the way the games were kind of produced and the graphics and stuff like that.
Yeah, I understand that. Like I said, I remember watching the NBA on CBS as well, but, with Dick Stockton and Hubie Brown, but they did some great work as well. But like I said, it was NBC's first year with Marv Albert and Mike Fratello. Don't forget Pat Riley. That was the only time he worked in television before he got his Knicks job for that following season. Of course, Bob Costas did the pregame show the first couple of years, and of course, Hannah Storm took over from there on after. But it was a great time if you were a Chicago sports fan, if you were a Bulls fan, of course, if you were a Michael Jordan fan. You saw him go from one level to the next level with that championship trophy. He joined the guys from his era with Isaiah Thomas, Larry Bird, and of course, Magic Johnson, who won titles during his era before he finally got to the top. So Michael Jordan and the Bulls, that 91 team, it was 32 years ago today where they beat the Los Angeles Lakers to win their first title in their 25th silver anniversary season. So check out the full game right here on YouTube. I believe they still have the radio call over the film with the late greats Johnny Ray Kerr and Jim Durham from WLUP AM 1000. So just type in Bulls Lakers Game 5 in 1991 with the Bulls radio call. It still gives me emotions until now. So it was a great time for being a sports fan in the city of Chicago. The Bulls team made you proud and made you proud to be a Bulls fan and proud to be a Chicago fan.
Well, yeah, and like as I was saying before, I don't know what the heck happened. I don't know if it's the Wi-Fi or something, but but even still, I mean, after all of that, I mean, if you ask Bulls fans where do they rank those 6 championships, you probably say maybe the first one. You never forget your first one. It's probably number 1. And you maybe the 4th one, you could probably say number 2, and then probably the last one at 3, and then you can kind of rank whatever is after that. But you never get your first one. I think that was probably the first is probably the best. And the way they had to go through, exercise those deals against the Pistons in the Eastern Conference Finals, kind of like led the way for them to do that. So yeah, I think it was a great show, and I think it was very highly rated too. I think probably one of the highest rated clinching NBA Finals I think in the last few years. Well, before and then so. It's definitely the top 15, I think. But yeah, I think, look, everyone acted like a fool in Chicago, like they've never won a championship before, which is absurd. But, But yeah, it was great. It was a great moment for the city of Chicago. And like you said, they were on Oprah the very next day. Everyone was celebrating. So yeah, of course you remember the party at Grant Park and whatnot. So yeah, it was great. It was a great moment for everybody involved.
All right. So, like I said, one more time, just type in on YouTube, Bulls at Lakers Game 5, and they have the radio call up there with the film. So watch it tonight as a tribute. I know I'll be doing that again later tonight to celebrate the 32-year anniversary today, the Chicago Bulls winning their first NBA championship of the Los Angeles Lakers. All right. Yours truly will close us out as we conclude this Monday edition of Second City Sports. You can follow yours truly on the Twitter and the IG at SidKid80. Once again, at SidKid80. That's SIDKID80. SIDKID80.
You can follow me at Keenan McGee on the Twitter and McKenna on the IG.
Make sure you download that Sports Zone Chicago app wherever you get your apps. Go to the Google Play Store to do that. Make sure you follow Sports Zone Chicago on all social media platforms, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. Please subscribe to our podcast at War Media Podcast, WARR Media, PODCASTS. We're available on all podcast platforms, including the iHeartRadio app. And make sure you give War Media a follow at WARR Media on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. And thank you very much in advance for your support.
Like, share, subscribe, and tell your friends.
And don't forget to catch Second City Sports every Monday, every Friday from noon to 2 p.m. Central Standard Time, right here on Sports Zone Chicago. One more again, as the kids would say. Catch Second City Sports every Monday, every Friday from noon to 2 p.m. Central Standard Time, right here on Sports Zone Chicago.
All right, don't forget, of course, you can catch Sports Zone Chicago anytime, anywhere on Roku TV. Just go to your Roku TV where you have the app or you have the little device on there, whatever device you have. You can catch our show, Sean and Maya, the Smoke Fellas, What's Up, Cuz. I believe they're on tonight. I'm not sure.
I believe so, yes. Mm-hmm.
All right, so you can catch them out as well. I'm sure they're going to be doing a lot of NBA Finals talk, especially too. So yeah, make sure you guys check them out. So yeah, so enjoy all the games. Hopefully, maybe we might be back. We might be talking about game 6s or maybe game 7s, or maybe we'll be talking about a couple of championships. Who knows? Of course, also too, you got baseball too. Hopefully, the Sox can get back going. Sid. And of course, hopefully also too, the Cubs keep their streak going too. They got a couple of tough series coming up against the Pirates and the Dodgers, respectively. So, enjoy all the sports and such. We're going to the dog days of summer, so make sure you guys, see the sport, much sports as you can. I've also got mini camps going on, mandatory mini camps going on as well. So for Sid, I'm McKenna. This was Second City Sports on Sports Zone Chicago, and we'll see you Friday.
Go Sox! Holla!